Hey guys, Sarah Berry, CPA, Texarkana, Texas here. Today is January 18th, 2021. It's MLK Day. And so I say the date because the rules are changing constantly for PPPs. And as of today, I'm going to share what the rules are for you. Now, tomorrow, you'll probably be watching this video tomorrow because it is late on the 18th. But tomorrow is January the 19th. And the banks are going to start accepting and hopefully submitting to SBA PPP Round 2. So the purpose of this video is to talk about PPP Round 2 with you guys. Now, if you're a business owner, you're probably very well aware of what PPP is. It's the Payroll Protection Program. If you have employees or certain business structures, then you qualify for this PPP loan, which can be and has been forgiven, and then it becomes free money, a grant from the government to help you pay your employees to keep them on payroll. So if you receive PPP 1, then there is a chance that you could get PPP 2. So PPP 2, as I said, starts tomorrow. It's calculated the same way, 2.5 times your average monthly payroll, unless you are a NAICS code 72, so you're a motel, restaurant, in that type of industry, then you can get 3.5 months times of payroll. So before we dive off into the specifics, let me just say this. How do you know that you will be qualified for PPP Round 2? So one, you have to have gotten PPP Round 1. If you did not get PPP Round 1, you're not going to get PPP 2. If you got PPP 1 and your sales are down in 2020 compared to 2019, then you can get PPP 2. Now, there are a couple things that mean your sales are down. So the first thing I would do is look at entire year of 2019 compared to the entire year of 2020 and see if 2020 is down 25% compared to 2019. So if your entire year's sales are down by 25%, then you do qualify. So what if your sales are not down by 25% for the entire year of 2020? Well, you might still qualify if you look at it on a quarter by quarter basis, all right? So what I did, I'm a numbers person, and so I just wanted to walk you guys through this worksheet that I created here. So on this worksheet, I think it's the best way to illustrate it is just to go through some numbers. So you can see 2019, the months in 2019, and the gross receipts, the sales by month in 2019. So that's the best way to analyze to see if you think you might qualify for PPP Round 2. Is to list your monthly sales in 2019 and then add it up by month to get your quarter sales. Now I've got the 2020 sales by month in here, add it up to get your quarter sales. And your quarters are January, February, and March. So as far as we know, you have to do a calendar quarter, so you can't just choose March, April, and May. Those would probably be the 3 months that everybody would choose if they could just do 3 consecutive months. But as far as we know, SBA is going to make us do a calendar quarter to see if we qualify. So in this particular case, to make it easy, I just put in $100,000 in gross receipts, sales, by month in 2019. So 1.2 million in gross sales for 2019. Now, I put in the monthly sales for 2020, fictitious numbers, just for example's sake. So 2020 gross receipts are $920,000. Now, 1.2 million times 75%. So I would have to have gross receipts in 2020 of less than $900,000 in order to qualify on an annual basis. Well, my gross receipts for 2020 are actually $920, so I don't qualify on an annual basis, but I do still qualify. Even though my entire year of 2020 is not really down by 25%, it is down in 1 quarter, so I still qualify for the whole year because 1 quarter is down. So let's see why. First quarter of 2019, my gross receipts are $300,000. I take that and multiply times 75% to know what number I'm going to compare to in 2020 to see if I'm down 25%. So in order to meet the threshold and qualify for the first quarter, I would have to have 2020 gross receipts of less than $225,000. Well, my gross receipts for the first quarter of 2020 is $240,000, so I don't qualify based on the first quarter. But I do qualify based on the second quarter. Again, my gross receipts for the second quarter, $300,000 multiplied times 75%, I have to have $225,000 or less in second quarter sales in order to qualify. Well, I do. I have $190,000 because I have 50 in April, 60 in May, and 80 in June. So you see where I'm going here. So even if you don't qualify based upon your gross sales for the whole year, you may still qualify if you look at it by quarter. Okay. All right, so there's two applications for PPP right now. There's one application for first draw, which we're not going to talk about that in this video. There's another application for second draw PPP. That is the PPP2 that we are talking about. On the PPP2 application, it gives you a place where you can enter your quarter that is decreased and the 2019 sales in that quarter and the 2020 sales in that quarter. You don't actually have to fill out that section if the PPP you're applying for is $150,000 or less. But I will go ahead and fill out that section. Most banks in our area are requiring documentation up front. In order to get the loan, you have to provide documentation to them that your sales is down. Now, SBA doesn't require that in order to issue the loan, but a lot of local banks are requiring that documentation up front in order for them to give you the loan. So, is your PPP2 going to be the same thing as your PPP1? It's very possible. So going back here to my worksheet, so you can actually use 2019 payroll cost in order to calculate your PPP2, or you can use 2020 payroll cost. Now, in all of our clients that we can see, most of them we're going to be using 2019 payroll cost in order to calculate the PPP because 2019 payroll most of the time is higher because your operations were in full swing and you had a higher cost, you had a higher payroll. So in this case, I have the 2019 W3, $250,000. Well, 2019 is higher than 2020, so that's what I'm going to use because in 2020, my W3 is only $200,000. Now, I did simplify this payroll calculation. Actually, your average monthly payroll cost includes a lot of things, more than just your W3 box 1. You can include pre-tax deductions, unemployment taxes, and things like that. But if you've got a PPP1, then you know how to calculate your average monthly payroll cost, or we've calculated it for you. So if you use your 2019 payroll cost, then you don't have to supply all that documentation to verify your payroll cost again because your lender has already gotten that on file. Also, speaking of lenders, so I reached out to several banks here in town that I have relationships with, and they have told me generally their procedures. Most banks are starting to accept these applications and submit them into SBA. Some actually started on Friday, the smaller ones, but most of them cannot start until tomorrow, Tuesday, January the 19th. They're not rushing through the process like they did with the first round of PPP. They don't expect that the income will run out because really there's not a lot of small businesses that are applying for PPP round 2 because their income is not down 25% or more. Most banks, like I said, are requiring documentation that your sales have decreased, even though SBA is not requiring that. Also, most banks are not accepting new clients. So if you didn't have an account with the bank, then you're probably not going to be able to convince them to do PPP2. My thoughts are I would go back to the bank that did your PPP1 unless you just had a terrible experience. I would use that same bank to do PPP2 because they should have all your documentation on file and make the process a lot easier. Some banks are using portals to process these PPP2 applications, and some banks are doing paper applications. So you have to reach out to your specific bank to know for sure. And if we are preparing your PPP2 application, we're probably familiar with a local bank, so we can tell you what that bank is doing. When you're filling out the application, question number 4 and question number 5 requires an initial beside it. So I had a banker tell me here in town, so make sure and tell your clients not to miss initialing box 4 and box 5 on the application. So what's included in gross receipts in order to qualify? So one thing that is not included is your PPP loan forgiveness amount. Do not include that in your 2020 gross receipts when you're comparing that back to 2019 to see if you're down by 25%. But what you do include, as far as I can tell, you're going to include any grants that you receive. So let's say you received an Arkansas grant. There was 2 that came out this past year. You are going to include that income in your gross receipts when you're comparing 2020 to 2019. So that wraps up the main points of what I wanted to talk to you guys about PPP2. We've already started processing these applications for some of you that have reached out to us. If you have not heard from us and you want us to assist you in this application process, please reach out. This is falling in our January. January is the busiest month for us. It's 10:30 as I'm recording this video. January is the busiest month for us out of the year, even without COVID or PPP or IDLs or employee retention credits and all those fun calculations that we get this year. So reach out to us and let us know if you want PPP2, but please be understanding in that we're trying to meet a lot of deadlines, get bank reconciliations and bookkeeping done so we can tell if you're down, so we can file a tax return. We're trying to get payroll reports and W-2s done because they're required by January 31st, but also to make for sure we know what your 2020 payroll is so we know which one's better to use for PPP2. Is it 2019 or 2020? So thank you guys so much. Have a good night.